Please welcome to the stage today's moderator, Deputy Editor at Deadline, Antonia Blythe.
Hello, welcome everyone. Thank you so much for making it out today, and happy Pride Day, by the way. Yeah. So I'm so excited by the amazing talent you're going to meet today. So let me welcome to the stage our first panelists. First of all, special effects makeup designer Jason Collins. Hair department head Barry Limo. Makeup department head David Williams. Production designer Ethan Tobman. Costume designer Cameron Lennox. Cinematographer Paula Wiedebro. And editor Tatiana Regal. Welcome everyone. Now, before we get into the chat, we're going to roll our first clip.
Compliments of Pamela Anderson. Who? Pamela Anderson. You are the man. You are the man. The one and only man that I need. Fuck you, Tommy.
Oh, shit, go, Tommy!
For what?
It's just this work thing. And the producers are flying out a bunch of, syndicators and affiliates to this big fancy resort to snooze and preview the new season.
And meet Pam Anderson.
Yeah, that too.
The shit you have to go through with these guys.
Get it. Come on.
How much do we love Pam and Tommy? Such an amazing show. Okay, so David, Barry, and Jason, this is for all three of you. Please, can you talk us through the detail of how you transformed Lily James and Sebastian Stan into these two iconic characters? I can't imagine that was a simple process.
It actually was a very exciting process for all of us to go through. We would start in the morning with Lily. She would start with Barry, and she would get her hair wrapped. She would come to makeup, and a prosthetic forehead was applied, and then on some days, breastplate as well. And
Hold on, I have a question. A forehead?
yes. She had a forehead that covered from just below her natural eyebrows and then up to be able to set her wig back a little bit more. And then the process of the paint, and a little paint will make you what you ain't.
But wait, I need to hear more about this forehead business.
Well, by using the forehead, Pamela's hairline was much higher than Lily's natural hairline is. So when we originally talked about using Lily's own hair, not only would that be a lot of upkeep because it's such a high-level blonde, but it wouldn't give us the ability to totally transform the shape of her face. So by using the prosthetic forehead, I could shift Lily's hairline back by covering it with the forehead and place the wig back to really recreate Pamela's hairline.
And Jason was our prosthetic designer who designed the prosthetic forehead. And Jason can speak a little bit to that as well in the designing of the prosthetic.
Yes, thank you. I absolutely am dying to know how you figured that out.
So
it's incredible.
When we first were hired for the job and they said it was going to be Lily James, I think, I pretty much lost my lunch that afternoon because, she doesn't look like Lily James at face value. She doesn't look like Pam Anderson at face value. If you put Lily James next to Pam Anderson, you start to get into your own head about it. Me and David started a conversation about, okay, what does she share with Pam. And the first thing that stood out to us is her jawline. I mean, her jawline matches Pam's pretty well. So we built off of that. And we went through a couple of different stages where, you know, we tested noses, we tested all sorts of things. And what we really realized, I think, David, early on was that, you know, to try to be as minimal as possible. We didn't want to cover her face full of prosthetics. This was something where we were going to have to take two-dimensional makeup as well as some prosthetics to accentuate some things and actually sort of encapsulate the whole character that way rather than just cover them completely up in silicone material.
It was really important. It's always important to allow the actor to work through the process, that we don't do anything that's going to inhibit the actor's process in what we apply on the face, that everything that we do enhances that process. And in this particular process to create Pam, we relied very heavily on the paint, on the makeup. The highlights and shadows and contours are classic character techniques to create those type of looks. This makeup encompassed everything from a little bit of prosthetics to an extreme amount of character work, and then into the period work that whatever we were doing wherever she was also then indicated what her beauty look would be for the day, if they were going out for a party or if it was a distressed moment, for example, when she was having the miscarriage, for a very natural look that you would see a very raw, natural, real person in front of you. Even in those moments, it was an extensive amount of paint to create the image of Pam Anderson on Lily James. And in our case, we were very fortunate to have two beautiful women, a beautiful woman, Lily James, to create another beautiful woman, Pam Anderson.
It is just extraordinary. This is why I love these crafts panels, because it is extraordinary the amount of work and talent that goes into creating a show like this. And it really is something that quite often gets overlooked, I feel like. The serious amount of work that this show hangs on, a lot of it is down to this panel right here. So
it's also, if I can jump in, it's not just us, it's teams of people. People that are here supporting us today are the makeup artists who were part of the process. Jennifer Aspinall, a huge part of the process in the beginning. Mo Meinhardt, Abby Lyle Clausen, Victor Del Castillo, and two people who couldn't be here, Dave Snyder and Bill Meyer. All of this, we represent teams of really talented, hardworking people in the trenches every day.
Absolutely. That's great. Give them a shout out. Thank you. So Cameron, for you, you've recreated these iconic costumes for both Pamela and Tommy, but also for Seth and Nick Offerman's characters. Talk us through some of the ways that you approached the two leads, but also having like these other characters that were a totally different world, and kind of making that all come together.
Yes, with Pam and Tommy, I did try to recreate as closely as I could the same garments that they wore during that time, the way they wore it, what they wore with it, when they wore it. I tend to do a lot of research before I start a project to really figure out who these people are, and especially when we're recreating real people, it's much easier. I'm able to read books, watch interviews, look on, online, pull images. But for the other characters, it was a little bit harder because these are people that we don't know, and we don't have access to them or personal photos. So I tried to pull what I could, which a lot of it was videotapes that were a little X-rated, and then tried to kind of add my own take on it. The Inland Valley, like the North Valley look is very different than Hollywood, so I tried to capture that. I tried to capture the time period, the mid-90s. These people wouldn't be current, so they probably would still be wearing items that they have from the late 80s to early 90s. So I tried to show that in their costumes and their wardrobe. And then for Nick's character, we played a bit with his character. We went a few different ways. The first fitting that I had with Nick Offerman, he was more of a peacock. Then he became later. I think we decided there was enough peacocks in our show. We didn't need another one, and that he was more of just a hardworking porn producer that probably just got up and threw on whatever was around and went to work. And so I did a little research on who were porn producers during that time, and there's quite a bit of character research you can find. There's some amazing things that I pulled up, but once again, we didn't want to overshadow Pam and Tommy. So I did kind of land on Max Baer Jr., who was a famous actor. Earlier in his career, he was in the Beverly Hillbillies, and then later he became a North Hollywood Valley porn producer. And he wore a lot of fanny packs and kind of those crunchy, techy track pants. And so I just kind of pulled that, and then I pulled, once again, some of the shirts and stuff that they wore during that time, also dipping into the late 80s. And Nick was great. Like, he was just so open and game to go either way with it. He played the peacock, and then he played the other role very well, and he was open to it all, and I'm very grateful for that. And then with Seth's character, it was more, so this is a person that is kind of a blue-collar worker, but his dad was in Hollywood, so we wanted to kind of instill a little bit of that, something that his dad, maybe his whole entire life, told him to always tuck in his shirt. So he would wear his shorts or his jeans that he'd wear to work, but he'd always tuck in his t-shirt. Just some little character details to kind of give him more of a well-rounded personality, and stuff that you would think that somebody that's working on a house would wear. We also instilled a little bit of the Seinfeld 90s. It was a classic, faded kind of baggy jeans and a puffy white sneaker that was, people were wearing that, so we kept that in there. But I think, adding the mullet just completed the whole thing. I mean, I could put people in anything all day long, but if the hair and the makeup isn't right, then, it doesn't complete it. So I think, once again, working as a team, we were able to finesse everything and have these conversations and make these people true people to the time.
I think the most important thing with Nick, Seth, and Taylor's characters and all the supporting characters is that we designed them equally to Pam and Tommy, so there was a true balance. Pam and Tommy were so designed and so well created that if we didn't give that same attention to the supporting characters, then they would stand out and it would become something that was noticeable in each scene. And so we worked really hard as a team to make sure that the supporting characters, Seth, Taylor, Nick, and Lily, James, and Sebastian were all on the same level of design so that everything was cohesive.
And when the team effort is really working, we are all pulling together for each other, which is really what creating these kind of amazing pieces are about. We were given the ability to do a number of tests, and sometimes one of us would need or want more tests than the other. And like Cammie with me, with Baywatch, in testing bathing suits and making sure we could get this right, she was willing to go all the way down the rabbit hole with me for like 3 tests and keep going just to get where it was that we needed to be to make sure that these looks were correct, and having actors that are willing to go through that. In Sebastian and Lily, that were 110% on board, fully willing to do that with us as well. That makes this work when we can all be together and say, hey, I need help here, and everybody pulls together to make that happen.
Tatiana, I also want to touch on the fact that you already worked with director and executive producer Craig Gillespie before many times. Can you tell us a little bit about how having that existing collaborative relationship helped you in the editing process?
Yeah, it helps a lot. We've developed a shorthand, a communication shorthand. I've worked with Craig for about 14 years. And the other thing that's great is that for example, when he came to me with this show, I just came to it immediately with a sense of trust that I knew it was going to be okay, because I too, at first when I heard Lily James, I knew Sebastian from I, Tonya, and I had a tremendous amount of, I think he's a phenomenal actor. But Lily James, I was like, really? And then Craig sent me that first photograph, and I just knew everything was going to work wonderfully. And I have this great position where I don't, actually this is the first time I've met most of these folks, where it all comes into my cutting room and I get to be the first audience and see what happens, and I react to if it feels real or not. Not the way they look, the way they're dressed, their performances, everything, and I then am just working on the emotion and the story and that sort of stuff.
Fantastic. So right now, I just want to roll another clip for everybody.
Oh my god, I haven't seen this in years.
Fuck is this?
You haven't seen The King and I? How? Oh my god, this is one of my all-time favorite movies.
Who's the chick?
The chick, that's Anna. It's Anna. Anna. She's okay. So she was sent to Siam, and she's her job there is to teach English to the king's children, and
How many fucking kids you got?
a lot.
Dude needs to slap on a Jimmy hat.
Oh, I can't wait to be a mom.
I can't wait to knock you up. Oh, your tit's pregnant? That's gonna be insane.
Have you got a big one?
You know I do.
I mean family.
Oh, that.
You have any siblings?
One sister,
Six, baby.
Athena.
Is she older or younger?
2 years younger.
Yeah, you close?
Extremely super.
Super. Did she have kids?
2. Toby and Miles. They're the fucking bomb.
Yeah.
Those 2 little maniacs, they crack my shit up.
How old are they?
Toby is 4 and Miles is 2.
They must love their Uncle Tommy.
Dude, we go hard. I'm a madman in the club. You see me on a fucking teeter-totter.
I fucking love you, Tommy Lee. Oh my god. It's a very ancient saying, true and honest thought, that if you become a teacher, by your pupils you'll be taught. As a teacher I've been learning, you'll forgive me if I boast. And I've now become an expert on the subject I like most. Getting to know you. Getting to know you. Getting to know all about you. Getting to like you. Getting to hope you like me.
I don't think I'll ever get over the fact that Lily James was the girl in Downton Abbey. And I'm just looking at this going, it's just unbelievable. And all down to you guys. So, Paula, what were some of the choices, as cinematographer, some of the specific choices you made in framing this? Because this is a piece that really gives us a kind of empathy with Pamela. That is a new idea of Pamela, because what we were fed by the tabloid press at the time was a very cliched, reductive image of her. But you give us this sympathy, this empathy. How did you approach that with framing?
I mean, I think it all came from the script and from sort of the interpretation of the showrunners and the directors. Like, they were very careful of protecting her and not exploiting her yet again. So I think that was like a conscious choice. And then, I don't know, in terms of framing, like, Craig is an amazing director, and it was like a Cassavetes approach to filming, where he didn't really want to limit the actors. We were always on Steadicam, and we would have to light the whole room and sort of give freedom to the actors to do their thing, and then like the camera and the operator would like participate and be part of the relationship and the energy, and I thought that was what made it work.
It's just remarkable. I love this show. And Ethan, as production designer, my goodness, what an exciting task to take all these people back to the 90s. I personally had such a rush of nostalgia watching this, especially like things like when they're in the Malibu library using the dial-up and like logging into, I guess, Hotmail or whatever it was. But a lot of the viewers won't even know this stuff, which is, you know, shocking and makes me feel very old. But how fun was it to know you were going to blow their minds with how archaic some of this stuff seems?
You know, I think a lot of us have this irony that if we do our jobs well, you don't notice them, right? So the goal is to be invisible and to create a canvas within which like real, believable verisimilitude happens. So most of these environments are built. The house is all built. Every apartment that you see is built. The porn studios, Jay Leno's talk show, and you do copious amounts of research. But I can't talk about production design without fixing this.
Thank you. That was bothering me
crazy.
too.
So you have to, you know, you have to find truth in it. Like when Craig first hired me for the job, one of the things he said that made me want to do the job was, we can't create cartoons. These have to be believable, empathetic people. We have to want them to succeed. We have to be invested when they fail. And whatever we thought about Pam and Tommy prior to starting this show, I felt to love them. I felt their innocence. I felt that they were representative of a time in our culture that's pre-9/11 and pre-internet loss of privacy, and we're still really innocent, and Americans still feel that they're the leader of the free world and that everyone wants to be American, and a billion people are tuning into Baywatch every week because it is the pinnacle of fantasy, and we're the greatest exporters of fantasy in that decade. And I got really caught up in that. The art department got really caught up in that. We really wanted to portray the innocence and naivete of that time where we thought it would last forever.
I kind of miss that time now that you're talking about it. The idea that we didn't have social media or smartphones, oh, that was bliss, wasn't it? So next up, we have another clip.
Okay, you ready?
Yes.
Clear your eyes, close your eyes. 1, 2, 3. Καλώς ήρθατε. Welcome.
God.
Hey. I have prepared for you the traditional cuisine of my people.
When did you do that?
This is domade, stuffed grape leaves. Hold on.
Oh my God.
Spanakopita, which is like spinach pie, melizano salata, an eggplant dip, and the crown jewel.
Careful, baby.
The moussaka.
What is it?
I ain't even gonna say, but that shit straight up praise.
Let me try it.
Right?
Oh my God. Ah!
Trelina mexicani. Oh, Santa Mirel. Melina Mercury. My mom played her constantly.
What's her name? Your mom.
Vasiliki, but everyone call her Vula.
Is your dad Greek too?
Minnesotan.
What? He's from Minnesota?
Yep. They met when he was overseas in the military.
You're full of surprises. And what's your dad's name?
David Oliver Bass.
David Oliver Bass. Not Lee?
Lee's my middle name.
Huh, really?
Thomas Lee Bass. That's my birth name.
I had no idea.
So, how was your day?
They're kind of adorable. I just love watching those two. So I'd love to sort of get a take from all of you or whoever wants to talk about this. Is there a moment or an aspect of your work on this show when you watch it back and you just feel really proud that you really pulled it off?
You go, but I just want to say the synergy between all of us, because I know that's what you're going to say, how we all were in sync.
Yeah, I mean, I see it every day, or every time I watch it, that it's the cumulative effect of everything. There's special moments within that for all of us. For me, I mean, there are two specific things. One was, of course, the Baywatch look, and the collaboration with Cammie on that was extensive and rewarding in its outcome.
Thank you.
And personally, for me, when we did The Tonight Show, which was so much for all of us, it was hair, makeup, wardrobe, the set, which was identical to The Tonight Show, which I had done the last 3 years of The Tonight Show with Jay Leno, and Jennifer was there with us and did the Jay Leno makeup, and Jennifer and I had done The Tonight Show together. Like, it was such a personally rewarding and heartfelt moment to be in that studio and feel like we were there at The Tonight Show again. And I mean, it felt that real. And Paula she's fucking amazing. I mean, like, there's like no better DP in the business. I mean, I'm fortunate again to be working on a project with her. What she puts on the screen and her feeling that goes into it, it's so authentic and it's so real. Like, I mean, all of us, I mean, we some of us have known each other for, you know, years or worked together, but the ability to get together with these guys and you can see it, and I think you can feel it in our work with the actors. Like, this was that group, that little train that made it up the hill.
We were doing an interview the other day, and they played back the trailer during the interview, and I hadn't seen it since it came out over a year ago, and I got strangely emotional watching it because I was looking at this piece of these people whose lives were so torn apart by the media and people's judgment of who they were and their existence, and to see that we were able to, with the help of DV and Rob and this beautiful story, and then our collective team, bring light to these human beings and show that there's humanity there. These were real people that were exploited, and we were able to tell the story a little bit differently. So I think getting emotional, seeing that work come to life so long after we did it, is just a sense of pride that what you can do when you come together as a team.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you. Applause, yes.
I'll say this, you know, I think all of us were terrified of making them caricatures. That was the first thing that we were all really afraid of. And the simple fact that these actors are incredible. And I think that, you know, it's one thing for all of us to do our craft. You know, we can make somebody look two-dimensional in a picture like somebody else. We can do everything we can do, but without them breathing life into these characters, the nuances, just the way they enunciate, just the way they wear everything. You know, they flip their hair, you know, whatever it is, those little moments, those are the things that bring all of this to life. So, you know, even just watching these clips again, you're just like, wow, these guys really showed up. Everybody showed up. And that was one of those rare opportunities where lightning strikes. And, you know, I'll always cherish this as an experience with all of these people up here, that this is just one of those things that's going to go down in the books for me as like one of those rare opportunities that I hope I get again. But, you know, you never know.
I was just going to add, I don't know if it's obvious when you're watching it from the outside, but within the bubble of creating this narrative, it's moving at the speed of a bullet. It's Goodfellas velocity. There are 5 interiors every page. There's montages of the video being disseminated throughout the world, and there's 4 countries in a paragraph. So all of us collectively, like I was joking on the show that we would lose weight because we were just trying to keep ahead of the writers and ahead of the camera. And when you're moving that quickly, you have to have incredible trust with the people that you're working with, but they're showing up to massive sets for the first time, and Paola has to light them instantly, 360 degrees. She hasn't had a chance to really digest it, and you end up finishing each other's sentences because you have to. So that's one of the biggest takeaways for me, but also just watching an episode, I can't believe we pulled it off.
I didn't lose weight. There was a lady at catering that made the most amazing lunches every day.
I just want to add to what Ethan was saying, that also the creators of the show, thanks David, and you know, the showrunners, the writers, everybody, they had so much faith in all of us that we were working very fast. It was a very fast-paced show, and that the amount of trust that they had in all of us, in all our departments, you know, we could feel that, and so we were able just to do our jobs, and I'm grateful for that.
No, I mean, I thought it was quite magical to get to imagine what they must have felt like going through all of that experience, and then all the characters and all the actors had like so much energy and like so many dimensions, and like the weight of Seth and like his sadness, and then like the craziness and the sexiness of Pam and Tommy, and to get to be there and to like imagine what it was like and to contribute to the feeling was magical to me.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's just such a crazy story, and so big, and what everybody did. But it always comes back to the emotion of it. And as you're watching these episodes, you're seeing behind the curtain, and you believe the dynamic between these two people who met and got into this crazy relationship very quickly, where they didn't know each other's names, they didn't know where they lived, they were married, and it's all believable because of everything that goes into it, from the script and what everybody does, and it's just a really good, emotional, crazy ride.
Well, I just want to thank you all for being here. What a lineup of talent. Let's give them a round of applause. Congratulations, everyone. And thank you so much for talking about your work on Pam and Tommy. And now we're going to do a little switcheroo and do our second panel. Thank you, everyone, so much.
Thank you.
All right, how awesome are they? It's such a privilege. Thank you so much. And now we've got an exceedingly exciting second panel for you, and that will be coming up in just a second, so hold on. So we're good to go. Now, I'm going to introduce our amazing second panelists. First up, co-showrunners and executive producers, D.V. DeVincentis and Robert Siegel. Hi, welcome. Thank you. Hello. Star and executive producer, Seth Rogen. And starring as Tommy Lee, Sebastian Stan. Welcome, hi. And joining us virtually are directors Gwyneth Horder-Payton and Hannah Fidel. They should be joining us virtually. There they are, and starring as Pamela, Lily James. Welcome, everybody. Okay, so I want to start with DV and Robert, first of all. As showrunners and executive producers, tell me why now was a time to tell this story, and what kind of research went into deciding to do this now?
Well, in terms of why now, I think this story should have been told a long time ago, to be honest, and certainly has had its place any time since. But The truth behind this story, I think, lands quite differently now because so many things so many similar situations have followed it that have been more sort of contrived or calculated, whereas this was a real, this was a crime and a theft, you know? It wasn't a setup. It also was this thing that was the first, you know, celebrity sex tape, even though it was a stolen tape and a private tape. It was the first viral video, and it was the first thing to sort of break the internet. And I think we're at a point now where the internet's about to start meaning something else, and it's interesting to look at this now.
And it just touches on, you know, celebrity, technology, privacy, all these very relevant issues. So it's kind of a great canvas to explore all that stuff.
It's an extraordinary story. I mean, I personally had no idea, and I mean, I was a child when this happened, but I totally swallowed the tabloid view that we were all fed, and it's extraordinary what was really going on behind all of that, the kind of furore around it. But before we get into talking about this more, there's so much to say, but we've got a clip to show everyone first. So.
What's that?
That is a summary judgment. Judge threw your case out.
Yeah! Fucking suck it, Guccione. See, baby, what'd I tell you? What?
He ruled in favor of Penthouse.
What?
He deemed Penthouse within its First Amendment rights as the tape, by virtue of its being in the public conversation, is newsworthy.
That's fucking bullshit.
I agree. I mean, I get the validity of the free speech argument, but for a judge just to accept it out of hand with no counter-argument, that I don't get it.
I do. Well, they have to say something. They can't say the actual reason.
Which is?
That I don't have any rights. Because I have spent my public life in a bathing suit. Because I had the nerve to pose for Playboy. They can't actually say that sluts, and that's what this ruling is saying I am, in case you're unclear. They can't actually say that sluts don't get to decide what happens to pictures of their body. That I don't get to decide what happens to my actual body, so they say something else instead.
Pam, I understand your position.
You will never understand my position. This is why I should never have done this. I let you lead me exactly where I knew we'd wind up, which is a place you've never been before. Ooh, but I have, many times. Don't worry, though. It'll never happen again.
Pamela.
Wow. What an extraordinary scene, incredible performances. It's just stunning. Lily, for you, I'm really interested about what you feel this story of Pamela, and it tells us about exposure and maybe even where we are now with things like social media, because I feel like Pamela was kind of the guinea pig for that experience of having that intrusive exposure that wasn't just accidental, it was without her consent. So how do you feel that reflects where we are now? We've kind of gone on a down trajectory, I think, but what do you think?
Yeah, I feel like a lot of what happened, you know, that we're exploring in this huge violation and exploitation of their privacy sort of, and coinciding with the birth of the internet, has shaped our very unhealthy obsession with media and celebrity. And I feel like, unfortunately, with social media and stuff, we've all just become even more desensitized, I think. And I mean, you see it all the time, the ways that people are treated online and the things we say, it's just without any care or humanity or empathy. And I think our show is trying to look at all of that and to hold us all accountable. And it's so weird watching the scenes again, because I haven't seen this for so long, or it feels like a long time ago, but when you get to say words that matter that much, and I think as a woman I felt every bit of it so deeply, and unfortunately, I think it's a situation that's happened to so many different people, and so I think in even tiny ways, you know, and I think it was just so powerful to get to explore this role and everything within it. Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like your performance really empowered everybody's vision of who Pamela is, which is so important to recognize. Sebastian, I was really interested just also to follow on from what Lily said, that what it felt like for you to get up close to that story, and did it have an effect on you? I mean, for me, watching it, I felt a lot of anger for Pamela. Did you feel that yourself, and did you kind of see, wait, we've all been duped. This was not what was really going on?
Yeah, obviously. I mean, I think both Lily and I felt tremendously protective of them as the story continued, and really making sure that that sort of bond between them, that intense connection, never wavered. Sort of felt like the heartbeat throughout their story, their journey, obviously, as these things are incoming. But it definitely makes you think, certainly on an empathetical level, and makes you wonder what that might have been for them. But obviously, we'll never truly know. I mean, she was pregnant. She was trying to be a mother. They were trying to be parents. However way you decided, the media decided to look at them or spin them, you know, they certainly had reputations and personalities, and very different. But at the same time, it was the human being that I think was getting lost in the narrative. And it's true. It's been happening since, and we've become only more desensitized, in my opinion. You know, we just don't. There seems to be sort of like this entitlement that's kind of come as of recent years with, well, if you're just out there, then you're public property. You know, I can just do and say whatever I want. Doesn't matter, you know, what you're experiencing, what you're going through. And so, where is the balance of that now? What are perimeters anymore? And where is our empathy is sort of, I think, something we constantly have to ask ourselves.
Yeah, that's very well put. Thank you. Now we have another clip we're going to roll.
I'm sorry. I know I can be a real asshole sometimes, but I'm just... try to do better. Oh, fuck that. I am gonna do better. You deserve everything, baby.
Sign it. Sign it.
This is our private, stolen, fucking life.
I don't care.
You don't care. You're gonna let that guy just fucking...
Sign it, Tommy. Now.
What if I don't? What if I don't? What happens? What happens if I don't sign it? Just say something, please. Just say something, Pamela, please. Just anything. Say something. Fucking say something! Fuck! God damn it! Say something! Fuck! That good? You happy?
It's over.
What's over?
Such amazing acting. Lily and Sebastian, we talked in the previous panel with the hair, makeup, costume, everybody, prosthetics, about your transformations. Can you walk us through what it was like for you? Maybe start with Lily, but also, and by the way, the thing that you even had to wear a forehead, a fake forehead, I could not get past that. But can you talk us through your transformations, but also how you got into the character? Because Sebastian, I believe that there were very specific things that maybe your acting coach had told you, but we'll get to that. So Lily, could you kick us off?
Kick us off, yes. So it was about a 4-hour process. I had this forehead, and I had teeth, and I had eyes, and the breastplate, which we didn't use all the time, actually, thankfully, because that made the process a lot longer. But it was, honestly, I really enjoyed having that time, and I needed it every day, because I would do all these, like, Pam just speaks fast and has great articulation, and so I would do loads of tongue twisters, and I would watch, Sebastian and I both made like montage videos of all of Pam and Tommy and interviews over the years, particularly from that time, and so I would just watch like every day a 2-hour movie of Pamela in the mornings as I was getting ready, and then, so it kind of felt like it took me 4 hours to get there, as well as this crazy bodily transformation, including like being spray tanned head to toe every day. It was insane. When I looked in the mirror, I just didn't see myself anymore, which turns out is really helpful when you're acting, because you just sort of aren't getting in your own way at all. You don't see yourself, your insecurities, your own habits, your own everything. So it just felt very freeing and and then to look at Sebastian and just see Tommy Lee in front of me, it all felt so real. Yeah.
And Sebastian, without being too personal, when I referred to your acting coach, what I meant was, I believe that
Steel
balls. The steel balls. Sorry,
Yes.
because he had worked with Helen Hunt, right? And he had told her when she played a waitress to put coins in her shoes, so that she would look like she was in pain.
Yeah,
and that gave you this idea.
Well, look, it all has to do with the tremendous amount of fear that both she and I were feeling, like, up to this camera test that happened in April, because until sort of everything was on, I think both of us, we talked a lot about this, and we would check in. We'd be like, I just don't know if I can see this, and if I can't see it, then no one's going to see it. So, unfortunately, once we got to that camera test, and thanks to hair and makeup and costumes, it really came alive at that point. And then those guys seemed excited when we were walking towards the camera test, and we were like, okay, if they're good, then we're on the right path. But for me, it was just more that confidence. And look, there's no textbook for how you approach anything. Everything is different. And at one point, he said, maybe you need to remind yourself of when you walk into a room, you're a guy who's been famous and successful at a very young age, who carries around, some weight down there. Maybe might want to actually do that. So then I just tried it, and then I had costumes build me a specific place, and that was that. But there were little things like that. It was the first time I had ever worked with like a earpiece. I've never done that before, because it was his energy level had to be so high all the time. And when I was like looking at videos with him all the time, I just realized, like, it's as if he never stops. He's like always playing the drums even when he's not. It's just like there's always a song going on. So then I I would put this earpiece in during the scenes and play music basically off my phone. So I'm always like just hearing music, and that really helped me out.
That's extraordinary. That explains some of his kind of manic energy, which is insane, actually, to work.
Well, and also not eating helps a lot. Just don't drive anywhere in LA.
And now we're going to roll another clip.
Are you okay?
I'm fine.
What's going on?
Picture you're driving, you know, and you're stopped at a red light, and the cars coming in the other direction have a left turn arrow. So they're turning left in front of you, you know, and they keep coming, and then your light turns green, you know, so it's your turn. But these left turn cars, they don't stop. They keep coming. And at first you let them go. You're like, what's the big deal? It's not a big deal, just let them go. But you know, they don't stop, and they're taking advantage of your kindness. And they know they're taking advantage of you, and they know they're wrong. And they're just doing it anyway. Why?
Because they're assholes.
Tommy Lee was the millionth left turner to roll through my green, and he flipped me off, and he threw garbage at me while he was doing it. And after just taking it and taking it and taking it my whole life, I couldn't fucking take it anymore, and so I did it.
Wait, what did you do?
I floored it, and I smashed into him head on.
Okay. Could you be a little more literal?
I stole his safe, which contained a certain videotape.
Wait a second. You're the one who...
Yeah.
That's your big... new business venture.
Yes, it is.
Poor Rand, he's so sad. But I kind of love him because he's this kind of philosopher character, but he's up against it. His life is not going well, and it just gets worse and worse.
Yeah, it doesn't work out for Rand. But nor should it necessarily, yeah. Yeah, he's a bummer.
Major bummer. And I know you and I talked about this before, but I think you didn't get to meet him, but I think you said that he's a weed farmer in Oregon or something now?
I think he is, yeah. So I might have met him, just not through this line of work, yeah.
So as star and executive producer, tell us about bringing it to the screen with both those hats on, in a way, and then why you also wanted to do this project so much. What was it about it?
There was a few things. I should first say this hair is for a role. I feel like I need to personally explain that to everyone. I'm playing a guy having like a midlife crisis, and in turn, I look like a guy having a midlife crisis. And it is, it's a weird job we have at times. So it's, that's where we're at. Yeah, it's a story. It's largely based on this Rolling Stone article where kind of the whole story was filled out for the first time. And I had a similar experience to, I think, what you were describing, where I was, young when the tape came out, and I had like a very, what I thought was clear perspective of the story behind it. And then I realized that I had a completely different, my perspective was wrong, and that I did not know the truth. I did not know the full story. And the fact that I didn't just spoke to so many cultural things that are so relevant. The fact that this just like, even as we were casting the show, I remember showing up to rehearsals and the other actors would be like, she didn't release the tape herself? And we were like, no, the whole point of the show is that, to this day, people didn't realize it, you know? And it was, and every time someone said that, it just spoke more and more to, like, what I thought was highly interesting about this show, is how this entire kind of, like, cultural false narrative was like, accepted in a lot of ways and kind of permeated to the time that the show was released, essentially. And so that's why I think, like, globally, I thought it was a very interesting story. I thought the characters were incredibly fascinating. And I also am a huge fan of kind of, like, dumb guy crime movies, I guess. And there's, like, a whole side of this that is very much that, of this kind of, like, bumbling in over their head, person who really feels like they're in the right even though they couldn't be more wrong, and really feels like they have a smart plan even though they couldn't have a more stupid plan. And I found that to be a very interesting character, and it was not like anything I'd really done. And as we were making this, as we were developing it, the fact that I was going to play him was not, it doesn't really come up. I kind of we'll make these things off, we'll develop them and then see if I fit into them by the time we're trying to sell them, essentially. But it seemed like I could play that role, and it was an interesting role to play. That was, I think, something I grappled with, was how sympathetic to make him. I know inherently, for better or worse, I come across sympathetic on screen. If you met me, you would hate me, trust me. But on screen, I know that I can make characters quite likable, and that was something that I was trying to thread the needle with, of how kind of dislikable versus, unlikable versus sympathetic this character should be, and I didn't think he should be overly sympathetic, but at the same time, I think it's interesting to understand where he's coming from, which was, not the best place, but if you're, to him, a truthful place, which was, he thought he was wronged by the universe, and stealing these people's, comically large safe, that would somehow correct things, but that's not what you should do.
I mean, thank you, yes. He does do a terrible thing, but you're right, you can't help liking him, and you struck a great balance, because, he's likable, but also just a disaster. And I love, it works because we see him as a child, and then we can ultimately understand why he is the way he is, which is just such a perfect little flashback. But we have one more clip to show everyone, so let's see that now.
Was that exciting to you and your husband?
No.
All right, next clip.
I'm sorry. Feeling a little dizzy.
Please excuse me.
Are you okay? For what it's worth, I've seen a lot of horrible depositions, but this...
So Gwyneth and Hannah, as directors, I'm really interested in hearing from you about how you approached a story that's about voyeurism, misogyny, objectification of women, and you bring the female gaze to a story that hasn't experienced that before. What are some of the ways in which you each approached your respective episodes with that in mind?
For me, in several scenes, particularly with the lawyer and Tommy, I tried to make it that Pamela was not part of the team. So there's a separation always. And so she would be isolated either from the male point of view in the background, or I think the last thing I did with them where she was all in the foreground and they were in the background and you were in her head. So for me, that was, in terms of framing, that's what I was trying to do. And then also from her point of view, looking back at all the men looking at her, which is in the lawyer's office.
Oh, we lost you. We can't hear you. Whoops. Tech fail for a second. No, we can't hear you. Oh no. While we work this out.
Oh dear.
Oh no, you're back. You're back.
Nick.
You're back.
I'm back. Yeah, it's my things are going in and out. Okay. I don't know. Did you hear most of that? Yeah. Okay, then that's enough.
Oh, that's it? We missed the last sentence.
Oh, the last sentence, I don't remember what it was. Just that Pamela was not part. She was not part of the team. Even in the whole process, she was still being objectified. She was still being looked at as this object. She was not being taken seriously. It was painful.
And what about the other episode that we could talk about?
Well, I think for episode 6, that was such a Pam-centered episode that I went in really with the idea that this was going to have a different pace and feel to it. And luckily, the guys, hi guys, I wish I could share with you. I just, they were so accommodating with that. And you know, I think everything was thought of in a very sympathetic way. And also, you know, having Paula, who's such an incredible DP as a partner, and having, you know, it sounds corny, but like the sort of girl power trio really was special and I think made this stand out. And the reason why I chose that clip actually was because Lily is so obviously fantastic in the role, but she's also, you know, able to do so much without dialogue. And it's just in the moments of silence, I think, that some of the best performance, at least in this episode, comes out. And so I just want to highlight that as well.
Fantastic work, yeah. And just to wrap it up, perhaps Devi and Robert could address this, but what do you hope that audiences take away from watching the story and understanding the other side of something that we've been told very differently before?
I would say, by the way, it's funny, my high school English teacher also taught me that balls in the underwear trick. I would say that I would hope that people, first of all, I hope people have a really enjoyable, fun time watching it. But underneath that, and Rob and I both individually and together really drawn towards things that are really fun, but underneath have something going on that's about the world that we're in. And in this case, I hope people understand the idea of accountability a little bit better. I think that maybe the worst thing about the internet is that it's allowed people to be the worst of themselves and get away with it because they never are accountable in any way. And I think that you can see that in what Rand goes through. You know, Rand is he means well, he thinks the world's supposed to work in a certain way. It doesn't, and he does not recognize that he is accountable for what goes on. And I think that everybody in the story outside of Pam and Tommy kind of suffer from that as well. Yeah, that's what I hope people would get out of it a little bit. What about you, Rob?
I'm good with that answer.
A man of few words. Well, I just want to thank everyone for coming out today to talk about this fantastic show. Let's give them a round of applause. Pam and Tommy, everyone. Thank you so much, everyone, for coming. Good luck getting home through all these road closures. Thank you. Have a great rest of your day.